In the bustling heart of Lagos, Nigeria, stands Thorne Industries, a testament to the vision and hard work of its founder, Elias Thorne. From humble beginnings, Elias has built a thriving manufacturing empire. However, disconnected from the daily realities of his factory floor, whispers of discontent and inefficiency reach his ears. Determined to understand the true pulse of his company, Elias makes a bold decision to step out of his executive suite and venture into the trenches as an undercover employee. Donning a disguise and a new identity, Leo, he embarks on a journey to rediscover the foundations of his business and the people who power it. Little does he know, this experience will not only unveil the challenges faced by his workforce but also forge unexpected connections that will change his perspective forever. Elias Thorne, CEO of Thorne Industries, sat in his penthouse office, the city a distant, glittering carpet below him. At 45, he had everything: a multi-billion-dollar empire, yachts, private jets, but a gnawing feeling of emptiness had taken root. His company had become a machine, streamlined and efficient, but the faces of his employees were just numbers on a quarterly report. A recent email about a new wave of cost-cutting measures, which he had approved without a second thought, left him with an unsettling feeling of disconnect. In a rare moment of introspection, Elias realized he had no idea what life was like for the people who actually built his empire. He was a ruthless leader, a shark in a suit, but a part of him wondered if he'd lost touch with his humanity. With a decisive snap, he logged out of his systems and made a call to his head of security. He wouldn't just observe his company, he would become a part of it. He needed to know what it felt like to be on the bottom, not just look down from the top. The uniform was scratchy, the steel-toed boots clunky and unfamiliar. Elias, now known as Leo, a supposed new hire, walked into the massive Thorne Industries warehouse. The air was thick with the scent of cardboard and plastic wrap, a far cry from the sanitized air of his executive floors. He was a fish out of water, his hands too soft to operate the pallet jack and his movements too hesitant to keep up with the fast-paced rhythm of the shipping department. Assigned to the late shift, Leo stumbled through his first tasks. He fumbled with the shipping labels, nearly toppled a stack of boxes, and earned exasperated sighs from the seasoned workers. He felt a wave of humiliation as he struggled with the simplest of tasks. It was a stark reality check. The finely tuned machine he had created was far more complex and demanding than he had ever imagined from behind his mahogany desk. Just as frustration began to boil over, a hand gently rested on his shoulder. It was Maria, a woman with kind eyes and a tired but resolute smile. She had noticed his struggles and, instead of scoffing, she offered help. "First day's always the hardest, Leo," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Come on, let me show you a trick or two with that scanner." Maria worked with a grace and speed that Elias couldn't comprehend. She not only showed him the correct way to operate the equipment but also shared little shortcuts and clever hacks she'd developed over years of experience. She didn't know he was her boss, but she treated him with the respect and patience he hadn't seen from any of his high-powered executives. Her simple act of kindness was a stark contrast to the cutthroat world he was used to. Working side by side with Maria, Elias began to see the real effects of his recent policies. He noticed that the shipping team was consistently understaffed, forcing Maria and her few colleagues to work double time just to meet their daily quotas. The stress was visible in the dark circles under her eyes and the way she would subtly wince as she lifted heavy boxes. Maria never complained, though. Instead, she found clever ways to make the impossible workload manageable, often staying late without extra pay just to ensure the department's numbers didn't suffer. It was a loyalty Elias had never seen or expected, and it filled him with a mixture of awe and profound guilt. He, the man who had created this difficult situation, was now a direct witness to the quiet suffering of his most dedicated employees. A huge order for one of Thorne Industries' biggest clients came in late, putting the entire department under intense pressure. The new shift manager, a man who strictly followed company policy, refused to authorize overtime, citing the very cost-cutting measures Elias had approved. The team was ready to give up, knowing they couldn't possibly get the order out in time. But Maria wasn't. She calmly told her coworkers to go home, assuring them she would take care of it. Elias watched in disbelief as she stayed behind, meticulously packing and labeling hundreds of boxes on her own. He felt a pull he hadn't felt in years, a genuine need to help someone. Without a word, he rolled up his sleeves and joined her, experiencing the physical and mental exhaustion of the work for himself. As they walked into the early hours of the morning, Maria and Elias took a much-needed coffee break. She opened up, not to a new coworker, but to a friend. She spoke about her dreams of giving her daughter a better life, the financial struggles she faced as a single parent, and the pride she felt in her job, even as she worried about her future. Elias listened, his usual guarded persona completely gone. He learned that the very policies he had signed off on were directly impacting Maria's ability to pay her rent and save for her daughter's education. He had always seen his employees as a means to an end. Now, he saw a person with real hopes, fears, and a dignity that his billions could never buy. He felt a new kind of responsibility, one that wasn't about profits, but about people. The shift manager, a stickler for rules and a man with a keen eye for discrepancies, noticed something odd about Leo. He was surprisingly intelligent and articulate when he wasn't fumbling with boxes, and his questions about company logistics were far too specific for a new hire. The manager's suspicion grew, and he decided to check Leo's employee file, only to find a perfectly clean, but surprisingly sparse, record. He began to follow Elias's every move, convinced he was a corporate spy or a rival company's mole. The tension in the air was palpable, and Elias knew his cover was wearing thin. He had to act fast. He wasn't just worried about his disguise being blown, but also about the manager's cold-hearted approach to the employees. It was a direct reflection of his own past leadership style, and he needed to put an end to it. The next day, the manager pulled Elias aside, his face a mask of cold professionalism. "I don't know who you are, Leo, but you're not who you say you are," he stated, his voice low and menacing. "I'm going to report you to corporate security." Elias remained calm, knowing this was the moment he had to face. He didn't deny the accusation. Instead, he simply looked the manager in the eye and thanked him for his vigilance. The manager, taken aback by Elias's lack of panic, stood there in a mix of confusion and triumph. But the moment of victory was short-lived. Elias, no longer Leo, reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. "I think you'll want to take a look at this," he said, the corner of his lips turning up in a slight, knowing smirk. The manager's jaw dropped as he read the name on the card, Elias Thorne, CEO. At a hastily called company-wide meeting the next morning, Elias Thorne stood on a makeshift stage in the warehouse. The air was thick with nervous energy. Everyone expected a scolding or a new round of firings. But instead, Elias began to speak, his voice uncharacteristically humble. He told them he had been living and working among them for the past few weeks, experiencing firsthand the challenges they faced. He then called Maria to the stage. She walked up, her face a mixture of fear and confusion. Elias turned to the crowd, his voice filled with emotion as he recounted Maria's dedication, her kindness, and her silent sacrifices. He held up the crumpled overtime waiver from the night before and tore it in half. "This woman is the heart and soul of this company," he declared. "And her well-being, and the well-being of every single one of you, will be our new top priority." The cheers were thunderous, but Maria was speechless. Elias announced a complete overhaul of company policy, starting with a significant pay raise for every employee, and an end to all previous cost-cutting measures. He then turned to Maria and offered her a new position as head of a new department dedicated to employee welfare and mentorship, a role she would create and oversee. Maria, tears welling in her eyes, accepted the offer, her face a beacon of relief and gratitude. Elias had not just found a great employee, he had found a new purpose for his wealth and his company. He had learned that the true value of his business wasn't in its profits, but in its people. As the dust settles after the revelation, Thorne Industries is poised for a new chapter. Elias, forever changed by his time as Leo, is committed to implementing changes that address the very issues he witnessed firsthand. Maria's dedication has been recognized, becoming a symbol of the hardworking spirit that drives the company. The other employees, initially wary of the newcomer, now understand the depth of Elias's commitment to his workforce. The undercover journey, born out of a desire for insight, has transformed not only Elias but the very fabric of Thorne Industries, fostering a stronger connection between the boardroom and the factory floor, all within the vibrant and resilient landscape of Nigerian industry. Thank you for following the journey of Elias Thorne, a CEO who learned that the true strength of his company lies not in the boardroom, but on the factory floor. For more inspiring tales and fascinating stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.